Carl DeMaio on News Radio 600 Coco. We're talking about the whole controversy about Facebook, and let's get into how Facebook works and how marketing is done online. In case you don't know, maybe you should know. Joining me on the DeMaio Report is Miro Kopik. He's a San Diego State University marketing professor. Miro, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Carl.
So tell me, has Facebook really done anything wrong here? I get the fact that people are saying that third-party vendors may have done some things wrong, but isn't Facebook like mining us and data mining us and analyzing us and selling to us? Isn't this what happens all the time on the internet?
Yes, Facebook does all of that. You waive away your rights, so whenever you want to post anything, they're collecting all that information, things you like, when you expand your profile, and what they do is they share that information mostly with advertisers who Facebook then places ads for on their behalf. So that's the biggest part of their revenue. The $40 billion, most of it is that. It's fairly innocuous. It's what a television station does or a radio station does when they sell advertising to sponsors, similar to what Facebook does when it sells its ads.
Okay, so then what's the big deal here? I mean, it's like someone screaming and yelling in the middle of the Las Vegas strip. Oh my God, people are losing at the roulette table.
So the two issues at hand that he's being dragged to Washington for, and there's number one is when third-party organizations take or scrape data that is outside of Microsoft's control. So this Cambridge Analytica group that is at question, who scraped the identities and information of 87 million, according to Facebook users, not the way you use the data, because now it goes outside of Facebook's domain. They don't know what they're doing with that data, irrespective of whether it's a political issue or not. That's a major issue. That's a major breach in privacy.
Okay, but what could they be doing with that data? I mean, what really is the risk? I mean, right now Facebook is saying, hey, you can advertise to someone who posts about cats. You can advertise your kitty litter to those people. That's basically how Facebook works. You identify an interest, a topic that they've talked about, and then suddenly you know that this person owns a cat or highly likely to own a cat, and boom, you're selling them kitty litter. What is happening to data outside of Facebook that's so bad or wrong that doesn't already happen inside of Facebook?
Facebook's use of data is fairly innocuous. It kind of places advertising in front of consumers, and again, a consumer, if they're smart enough, and this is one of the things that they actually talked about today, and I listened to do that, but you have to go through 60 pages of legalese and figure out where in Facebook to do that. 99% of the people have no idea. When it goes outside, the data should be protected by Facebook for their use. So within the Facebook ecosystem, they can target you, and it's relatively innocuous. So if I want to sell kitty litter, if I want to sell cornflakes, if I want to sell car batteries, no problem. It's when that goes out, they're responsible for your privacy. They tell you, they have conditions of what they're going to do to reasonably protect your privacy of people using data that is not Facebook. And that's the issue on the Cambridge Analytica side, or any firm that might have scraped data. And the other thing that they've been really taken to task on is the speed at which they've responded to this whole potential Russian interference, right? And it's not an issue of have they done the right things, have they done enough? It's the fact that as a technology company and having worked in the technology space, they and Twitter and everybody else has been extraordinarily slow at responding to consumer or other concerns. And for a technology company, they should be held, they should have a little bit more get up and go in that regard.
So what could potentially be done in a bad way with data outside of Facebook? What could these companies do if they know that, I don't know, I like cats?
Well, I think, again, it's kind of like the issue is I can sell stuff to unscrupulous people who will then do phishing scams. I can do a lot of stuff that can get you to respond to something related to cats and then try to scam you out of some money, or do whatever it might be that might be nefarious, depending on what they would do. And so it's important that Facebook, when they work with any app provider or anyone who's looking at data analytics and being able to pull some of that data is that it's done in a way that the user at the end of the day is protected.
I see. Okay, so there could be bad things happening. We don't know that anything bad has happened per se with Cambridge Analytics.
Well, it's interesting. It was if you in following the testimony, it was interesting because as I listened to the various senators, it's clear that most of the senators have no idea what they're talking about. But the few that did brought up some very interesting insights, and one was where Zuckerberg admitted that the 126 million people that the Internet Research Agency, which is the Russian organization that did a lot of the work in the election, and this is where Facebook is really being criticized, is Zuckerberg stated that he believes there's a very direct causal link between those 126 million and the 87 million that came out of Cambridge Analytica, which was a little bit shocking to hear for a CEO to say that in an open testimony before Congress. That'd be something that their attorneys would deal with, but that was kind of an interesting piece of information.
And so basically he's saying that the Facebook information was mined and used by the Russians to then serve up ads.
And in potential collaboration with Cambridge Analytica. That's where this gets a little fuzzy. But more importantly, what was the interesting upshot, and this is really important, if you look at other businesses, whether they are media businesses or other businesses like banks, phone companies, credit card companies, every bank, because of regulation and any of these organizations, has to send you, and you receive a little disclosure once a year. Here, very simple, one page. Here's the data that we have from you. Here's how we use the data. And if you don't want to participate in any of these levels of data, please contact us, and we will scrub it. That's one of the things that actually Zuckerberg did talk about in his testimony, that they're going to simplify privacy. They're going to make it much simpler. So instead of potentially being regulated, they might make some very easy transitions so consumers have a good idea of what they're getting into and what their options are. And as any good business, transparency is very important because that way you build trust. And then at the end, Facebook gets more advertising.
All right, Professor, appreciate you stopping by. Pretty good points. And what do you think? Is Facebook doing something bad here, or is this much ado about nothing? Coming up on the DeMaio Report. But